I guess it's good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us. I'll stand up here so you can see me because I'm so short. My name's Avi Perez. I'm the CTO for Predictive Analytics. My colleague today is Will Blake. He's the CTO from CRU. Predictive Analytics, I'll give you a quick overview of it, and we're going to hear a use case from Will about CRU. But Predictive Analytics is a decision intelligence platform. It's a new space in the analytical construct. The big difference between decision intelligence and analytics, it's got a lot more in the box. It's all about the entire life cycle of data. Very quickly, it includes good old business analytics, things like pie charts and slice, dice, drill down, the stuff that you all know and love, hopefully. But in the context of decision intelligence, it also includes a full-blown data preparation framework, which is a big part of the world today in the analytical construct. And the third sort of discipline is data science. And data science is the big new thing that everyone's interested in. What makes Pyramid interesting is we connect all three of these disciplines in a very deep, sophisticated, robust way in one platform. And that's why it's now decision intelligence. A little bit more about Pyramid. It's a no-code, business-centric application. It's not something for developers. You can get very, very deep and very advanced with it, but primarily a no-coding experience. The other big revelation is we work directly on the data estate. There is no ingestion in Pyramid. We're always querying your data assets directly. Data is getting enormous and very, very big. It's impossible to copy it and put it into an in-memory engine or put it into a proprietary data layer. You must go straight to the data estate, be it a data lake, a data warehouse, a database, whatever data X you've got out there. And what's interesting is connecting all those dots and still keeping it a business-centric application. And last but not least, a high scale. Pyramid is designed for cloud or off cloud, doesn't have to be only in the cloud, but a very, very powerful backend engine that can handle hundreds of thousands of users in a single instance. Now, all of that comes together to offer a proper way for your organization to have real decision intelligence for everybody, not just for 5% of people or 10% of people. So, to give you an example and the meat behind it, I'm going to hand it over to Will to explain a little bit how CRU uses Pyramid and a little bit more about what CRU does. So, with that, Will, why don't you take over?
Thanks very much, Avi. So I work for CRU. So CRU is a market intelligence and data company in the mining, metals, and fertilizer space. So we provide market analysis for over 40 commodities. We're a price reporting agency, so we collect and set over 900 commodity prices every week. We also run events. We do about 25 worldwide conferences, and we do consulting as well in the areas of mining and metals. So we were founded in 1969. We've come from a publishing business. So essentially we were publishing written reports, which used to get mailed out across the world. And then we transformed into a digital data business over the last 20 years. So we're providing crucial data and insights into these industries so people can make better decisions in all the various areas they're working in and the investments they're making in their commodities industry. We're located worldwide. So we're headquartered in London, and we've got 10 offices in various regions around the world.
So, Will, can you explain, how your data pipelines work? Can you explain, what technologies are used? Give us a sense of how it all comes together.
Yeah, sure. So, as you can imagine, we deal with a lot of complex data. The interesting thing about commodity data, there's no right or wrong answer. So we have to collect all the data from scratch. So we bring in thousands of different sources, ranging from annual company reports, trade databases, industry associations, and we have 200 analysts who go out on site visits to various mines and smelters and refineries around the world. So we actually collect raw data from all the different assets. And that all gets ingested into our data pipelines. So a lot of the work is done on cleaning and getting that data into consistent shape. So we have a common metadata layer and semantic layer across all that data, because it all comes in different formats. We're covering about 40 plus commodities, and then we feed that into our data platforms to to forecast supply and demand for the different commodities. We forecast prices. We do short-term prices, short-term forecasts for 5 years, and we do long-term forecasts out to 20 years on all the commodity prices and the dynamics of the different markets. We also model costs of production and also carbon emissions of each individual commodity producing asset. So all that data has to get funneled through different pipelines, and then with the final output is for the analysts to consume that data so they can write the market commentary and the analysis, and then we also publish the data to our clients using a variety of data tools so they can get access to the data and use that in their own analysis and systems. So just to drill into a particular example of one of the data pipelines, it's around carbon emissions. So this is something we've developed over the last 3 years. So we've created a data service which calculates all the carbon emissions for every single commodity producing asset globally. So we use our proprietary data and models to calculate the carbon emissions. And just to give you an idea of scale, about 10% of worldwide emissions are produced from commodity mines and smelters and refineries. So I think the steel industry produces 8% of worldwide carbon emissions.
Wow.
And we just signed this week a partnership with the Sustainable Steel Institute, and we're providing all the emissions data for steel to a consortium of banks so they can make better decisions around moving to net zero. So our data is very crucial to decision makers, particularly in the financial space, so they can look at their assets and appropriately move their money and where they're going to invest and how they're going to move to a net zero world, particularly in steel emissions. So this requires quite an intricate data supply chain. There's a lot of emphasis on data quality, data governance, and data confidence, making sure the data is correct, and then we're publishing that out to our clients across the industries. Now, in terms of technology stack, a lot of the data just comes in a variety of forms: PDFs, Excel sheets, databases. We have to ingest all that into our data platforms. Some of it's still done by hand. We do have automation, but some of it is so intricate and so bitty that it has to be done by hand. So as analysts actually looking at the data and then typing it into the data platforms. We then push that through a proprietary modeling system. So this is something we've built ourselves. That's where we model all the data. We've got thousands of calculations to model the costs and the emissions. And then we output that through Pyramid Analytics as the internal visualization tool to allow the analysts to see the data and explore the data to write their market commentary. And we also use Pyramid to do a lot of QA work as well, because we're going to make sure all the data is correct before it goes out to clients. There's a lot of QA processes which go on before the general release.
So can you show some, on the next slide, you've got some screenshots of how that goes out to your users with Pyramid.
Yeah, sure. So this is some screenshots from the Pyramid Analytics. So we have what we call the asset platform, which holds all the data in the mines, smelters, and refineries. It's got close to 500 million data points within that data platform. And we use Pyramid to visualize the data, so the analysts can look at relationships, and then they inform that for their market commentary and analysis, which they're continuously writing and updating.
So tell me, do you do a lot of predictive analysis on top of all of this? There's a big segment of that is about the predictive scale, right?
Yeah, so we're continuously predicting what's going to happen next because we're modeling economics and forecasts. We're forecasting supply, demand, we're forecasting prices, and all that builds into a picture of what's going to happen in 2025, 2030. And that's so crucial to making long-term decisions in the commodities industry. We're investing billions of dollars, and they've got to make decisions 10 years out before they move into a particular field. So our data is very crucial into that decision intelligence and allow them to make better decisions on where they're going to invest and how they're going to invest into the different commodity areas. So it's very much a predictive cycle, and we allow in some of our data tools for clients. So this is a data service for emissions. So this is what we developed ourselves, where all the data funnels through here, and the clients have access to this on a subscription service. and they can use this to access the data, and they can also run predictive scenarios across the data set. And this is one of the end outputs. So this is an emissions curve for all the aluminium smelters in the world. So there's 300 aluminium smelters. And we've modeled the carbon emissions for every single smelter globally. And then we can do various analysis on that using that data. So the ones highlighted in blue are all the European aluminium smelters. They've already done a lot of greening of their supply chain, so they're running on renewable energy, hence they've got a lower carbon emissions than some of the people at the top of the curve. In terms of the scenario analysis, here we've got the carbon costs for the different countries. So we provide the base case scenario carbon cost, and then we can put in, the user can put in their own carbon price, and they can use the model to predict how different smelters will shift on that curve. So here we've doubled the price in Brazil, in Canada, and doubled the price in Europe. And then the user can see the output, so that runs algorithms in the back, and you can see the results. A lot of the steel plants which are highlighted, they've moved further up the curve because they've got a higher cost of production because of their emissions. And this is what our end clients are using to help them make better decisions and look forward into the future, so they can make forward planning decisions on how they're going to reach net zero and reduce their carbon emissions.
So, given all of that and the different things, how do you see CRU moving into the more of the prescriptive sort of version of the world? Because prescriptive analytics is really the ultimate sort of frontier of decisions. Tell me what I should do is really tell me how to make the decision. So where do you see CRU moving in this space as time comes by?
So I think it's a good question. I mean, in some ways we are doing prescriptive analytics, so we are making recommendations to our clients, but obviously they have their own portfolios, they have their own data. So a lot of our clients are now consuming this data via API, and they're feeding it into their own decision-making platforms, their own analytics platforms, and then they're performing prescriptive analytics using our data source and maybe combining it with other data sources so they can predict and make decisions on what's going to happen in 5 or 10 years' time. And then they can channel investment, they can make decisions about where they're going to produce, where they're going to buy, and that's very much the prescriptive arena. So it's almost we're providing the data and the intelligence for our clients to make do prescriptive analytics on our data. But they will amalgamate it with a number of different data sets which they're purchasing in from various different companies.
So, I mean, what's very clear is you've got a very sophisticated data pipeline, as you call it, or I would call it a data factory, but basically the same idea. Lots of sophisticated moving parts, and it needs to be because you're doing something very advanced and clever, and you're doing operations of the third order. How do you see this improving in the future? What do you think is what would make your life even easier in terms of achieving the outcomes you have to for yourselves and for your customers?
Yeah, so it's a good question. So we've built these data pipelines over the last sort of 10 years, and they're quite intricate, and we have to move a lot of data between different platforms and different systems. So if I just go back a few slides just to this slide here, we've got a lot of technologies underneath, and they're all have got different use cases for whatever we're doing in the data, or transforming it or modeling it. I think one of the trickiest areas has been data modeling. I mean, we do quite advanced modeling with thousands of calculations across time series, across hundreds of millions of data points. And there's not many technologies which can handle that, and in particularly in BI tools. And one of the interesting things we've been working with Pyramid is they're working on a modeling functionality, more data science functionality, to actually integrate with their analytics platform. So rather than just being an end representation of the data, we can also move our modeling stack within the Pyramid Analytics solution. That just means we don't have to move the data as much. We're not having to shift it from different solutions, and we can get a faster flow through the pipeline, and also improve our data quality and data accuracy because we're holding everything, all the logic and all the data in one single solution. So that's something we've been working with Pyramid to develop that out, so then we can then use it within our own data pipelines.
All right, so with all that said and done, any other improvements you have for the future on the CRU side of the stack?
Yeah, so there's three areas we're looking at. So if we go back to the data ingestion, we're doing a lot of manual data work where we've got teams of people based in India who are collecting data for us. And essentially they're scanning through various bits of material and pulling that out and extracting it. So we're looking to experiment with artificial intelligence, machine learning, just to, not necessarily to replace people, but just to speed that process up so we can shift more data through the pipeline. We can get more data sources and just automate that. So we're getting better return for our investments in that area. So that's one improvement. The second big improvement is we're going to be shifting our data into, well, we'll run it out of SQL, but we're also shifting to Snowflake. And we're looking to sell this same emissions data on the Snowflake data marketplace, because there's a wider group of people who need access to this data, who like access, so we can make that available in different forms. Because what we are finding is people need a variety of ways to integrate with our data, and they want to get that seamlessly and move it into their system so they can use it for better decision making.
All right, so terrific. From the Pyramid perspective, when we meet a problem set that is very similar, and frankly analogous to the CRU story, our goal is how can we make that full experience, that entire data pipeline, work better, exactly like Will was explaining to you. It's the ultimate challenge. And this is what we think is the decision intelligence platform concept. It's not enough to have a tool that builds cool looking pie charts. It's not great that you let your end users do a formula here or a formula there. It's way, way more complicated, way more advanced. It's a much, much, much bigger game that we're talking to. So with this slightly complicated diagram, you can kind of get the sense of what we think it looks like. And if you think about it, it's very, very analogous to what Will just explained. You're going to have your raw data, fine, everyone's got that. Not everybody needs to go through a fix and a clean of the data, but you might. And especially if you're a business user these days, even if you've got a curated data warehouse or data lake, you still want to maybe mash up that spreadsheet in there or rearrange the elements in a hierarchy, something like that. So it could happen. Might not need to happen, but it could happen. The big one, which is flavor of the moment, is to run DSML, which is data science and machine learning algorithms. That's a big part of, in this diagram, the beginning. Too many of the tools today do it at the end. They do it when you're doing the pie chart, when you're building the cool little analytical visualizations. It's the wrong place. The right time to do DSML is upfront, because you're going to run it on 100 million rows. You're going to train it, and then you're going to apply that to the prediction on 1 billion rows. So a big part of Pyramid's decision intelligence platform concept is to do the DSML very early on in the stage. That's where it belongs. And then we finish over the semantic model. So all of that is just the data preparation experience. And yes, you do need one of those. Believe it or not, even if you have a lot of those elements already in existence in other technologies, lots of companies and with lots of scenarios don't have all of that all perfectly aligned. It's a big part of the story. Once that is done, then we get to the analytics and the discovery or the visualization experience, which, as you can tell from this diagram, it's a part of it, but it's not the only thing, right? And from that, you can already start to drive decisions. My little light bulb at the top there. You can do decisions off descriptive data and diagnostic information. Yes, you can. But it's really not eureka. It's not enough. So then we would move into the second last stage. It says business modeling and optimization. And this is where it gets really interesting. Now we bring in the prescriptive analytical constructs. Today, a lot of people do that in tools like Excel. They get specialized software, but it doesn't happen that often anyway. It's a very, very sort of uninhabited space in the spectrum of analytics. I mean, how many people here use Excel Solver? Show of hands. No? How many people run optimization models to say, this is how the factory should run tomorrow morning if the price of wood goes up and, the price on Amazon for my tables and chairs goes down. Who does that? Yeah, one person. Hey, one person. But if I asked you how many of you, not you personally, but how many of you have tools for doing pie charts, you probably, yeah, we got one of those. But that's not that interesting anymore. I always tell people the pie chart is probably showing you what you already knew. You already know who your top 10 customers are. That's great. Can you tell me why they are your top 10 customers, and what are you going to do to get the bottom 10 customers into your top 10 category? Make it a top 20. Why not? That's a lot harder to answer, and that's where the whole business modeling and optimization sequence kicks in. And then, last but not least, get it out there. It's a funny little issue, but sophisticated analytics is wonderful for 5 people in the basement. The question is, can you get it to 500 people? People on the shop floor, people running the factories, people running the support center. They're not analysts. They're managers. They're actual users. And they want to know about how the sausage factory works. They just want to eat the sausage. They want to know how you made it. Just show me the ending. So that's a headache all on its own. So from beginning to end, that's what we call decision intelligence. You can see how it maps to real world problem sets, very similar to Will's story. And this is exactly what Pyramid is trying to bring to the marketplace. Of course, it has to work on the data state directly. No more little extractions and subsets of the data. Let's run on the whole footprint. So if you could achieve that, we think this would be a much, much more elevated version of analytics in the marketplace. It's a bigger game, like I said, than what is traditionally found. And it's what we see from more and more customers that don't like CRU. It's the whole stack needs to be solved. So with that, I would like to basically end the conversation. We'd love to show you how this all works. We have a booth just down the aisle over here. Do we have the booth number? Click again. Yeah, here it is, 435. You can find our stand. We've got a bunch of demos running today. We have a little theaterette for people who want to actually see things in action. We'll show you most of this happening, which is useful. You can see exactly what we mean. You'll understand what point and click looks like, understand what no code looks like, and still doing very sophisticated operations. And also, if any of you have any interest in understanding more about CRU's business and how they use data and even their services, please come and meet both Will and myself at our stand. We're here for, I don't know how much longer, but we're here for the rest of today. We'd love to hear from you and to take questions. And I don't know if we have any more time here. We're going to be kicked out of here in 5 minutes. But if any questions here, we can take them. Otherwise, come and meet us at the stand. All right? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.